I'm your host for today's session, and we are having WWF who are going to moderate and have a session discussing on the ecology and the ecosystem of food security. So I'm going to hand over the mic to the moderator for today to invite the other panelists.
Thank you so much. I know I'm standing between you and state issues, but we still have to shape our food towards an ecological future. So I believe that the session managers will be keen enough to ensure that we continue with our session. So I want to call upon our key speakers for the day, who will be giving us the opening remarks. The session under this, our session is actually entitled Africa Ecological Food Futures, and we ask a critical question that what will it take to put Africa towards an ecological pathway. So our food systems have been impacted and they're impacting the environment, but we want to ensure that the food systems are environmentally responsive. So that is the session we are having here today. So I want to call upon the speakers for today who will be giving us opening remarks, then we shall go to a session of discussion, and then we have a brief session of launching our Africa strategy. So kindly, our speakers, just come and take your seats. I'll be introducing you as you give your opening remarks. Thank you. I want to make a very big request. Please let us move in front. Let's move in front so that we are occupying the front seats. The room is a bit noisy, so if you sit behind, you will not be a very good participant. Kindly take the front seats. Take the front seats. If you are behind by more than 2 seats, you're so much behind, just come and take the front seat. So our first presenter who will be giving us opening remarks is Amani Ngusaru, who is our Tanzania Country Director. Dr. Amani Ngusaru is the WWF Tanzania Country Director. Only have 5 minutes to listen to you, to tell us about the ecological food future that WWF is pursuing, but also to tell us about WWF Tanzania, what we are doing. Welcome.
Okay, so thank you very much, Nancy. Amani, I'm the country director of WWF, and we don't have a lot of time, but the good thing is that all through this conference, I think we have heard that Africa is going to take off in terms of developing the Africa food systems. And the question that we're asking ourselves is about how the environment is going to be protected and the implications of this system development to the ecological sustainability of Africa. And the good thing is that, listening to earlier speakers, particularly the speaker the professor that talked from China and Indonesia, I think the question that they put forward is that they took off almost 60 years ago, and a number of mistakes they made related to environment, and I think they cautioned that don't make the mistakes that we did. And I think in terms of framing this, I'll just talk about what seems to be the issue now. And we heard that there is the increasing population in Africa. Urbanized population is going to grow more and more, exponentially growing, and currently 1/5 of the population in Africa is undernourished. And to feed this African population is going to be a monumental task, and we need to develop. I think this is the bottom line here. The sustainable, productive, equitable productive systems, and looking after the value chains. The actual drivers for food systems, I think you heard about this. Are we going to be addressing the challenges that comes with climate change? The population dynamics is already clear. The urbanization is already clear. It's going to be urbanized. and what do urban people feed. We need to learn about it and learn about how this is going to influence things down the road. The knowledge and technology is going to be brought in. The markets and the policies will need to be sharpened. The culture and behavior and the global disruption is on the increase. So, if we don't address the challenges that we have insufficiently, this could be catastrophic on the Africa ecology. Africa ecology is big. The wildlife population in the world, most of it is still in Africa. Tanzania have the biggest elephant population, the lion population, and so the forest reserves and the wilderness, there's a lot to protect. Now, we are hoping that the expansion of the farmlands is not going to be threatening the ecosystems that we have in the biodiversity. There's going to be agriculture intensification, and as well, that could come with the use and the misuse or overuse of external inputs and fossil fuels. How are you going to deal with that? The mechanization and irrigation, that will come with impact on water and soils. The water systems are already, stressed. The soils are not what they used to be. And so this could be a challenge right there. So the small-scale processing in the form of value addition, is one of the responses, and that will be accompanied by the infrastructure development, and especially related to transport, processing, and packaging. So there's a number of issues. Now, the impact to Africa's ecological assets could be through, we have seen a number of habitat loss and fragmentation of the ecosystem that we have that all lead to biodiversity loss. The reduction in water flows, in freshwater bodies, river systems and wetlands. We're already seeing a number of stresses, not just in Tanzania, but all across Africa. Are we going to be protecting the free-flowing rivers in this continent? The greenhouse gases emission from the land use change and the inputs and use of mechanization is some of the things that we should be watching. The soil, air, and water contamination and pollution, also some of the. Now, the other thing is that, given this thing that we should be worrying about, the reality check that we have is that the domestic food demand in Africa is not going to go down. It will remain the primary driver for cropland expansion in most parts of Africa. So things are just going to get worse. And the promotion of medium to large farms is likely to continue. To grow, and export-oriented production will probably increase. So things are going to be on the increase. The poverty will remain a key driver of unsustainable agricultural practices. The poverty is not going to go down, it's just going to go up. These are the reality checks. That the cropland expansion is likely to continue, and unfortunately, there's all the indications that this is going to be encroaching on the high biodiversity value areas. And the value addition in goods for Africa will also become locally significant over the coming years. So this is the situation. We're going to grow. Food is going to grow. The production is going to grow, and these are the situations that we all need to. But there is hope. Land rehabilitation is being talked throughout the presentations in these 2 days, and land rehabilitation will be a win-win situation for nature. However, this must be based on evidence. I think we have heard science evidence in terms of species adaptation and the survival, and have to be guided by the use of land use planning. We have to know where the high biodiversity areas are located. We have to know where we should be doing agriculture, So land use planning will be big. Now, WWF, what we call the Africa Future Strategy that we're going to be launching here today, actually provide the framework for transitioning Africa food systems toward ecological food future. So this is what we are bringing in, and we will take you through what you have in your chairs, and we will launch it today. And in conclusion, we need to put Africa on the path towards an ecological future. You know, increased food production, yes, but I think it also have to be towards the ecological food future. To African governments and the stakeholders in this meeting during this Africa Food System Forum to think carefully the way we produce and consume food and consider the above drivers impacting reality. We must invest in food system directors support both people and nature. So thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Thank you so much, Dr. Mani. He gives us a very good background of the drivers in our food systems and how this is actually impacting on Africa's ecological assets. But he assures us that with good practices, there is hope that we are able to heal with nature if we are going to do the right thing. So thank you so much, Dr. Mani. I want to call upon our next presenter. Actually, I gave him some slightly more minutes because he was giving the background of this session. So, Kindra, I'll be very strict with him. So Kindra is the head of business and is quite passionate about what he's doing to promote farmer businesses. But what is most important is that he works with TechnoServe as a business development, and he works with TechnoServe on impact development and global strategy. And so one thing about her, she has lived in Tanzania for 11 good years. So whatever she tells us is really based on a good understanding of what Tanzania is. So
my name is Kendra Halverson. I'm with TechnoServe. We're a nonprofit organization operating in about 30 countries, many of which are in East, West, and Southern Africa. While we're a nonprofit, we operate at the intersection of civil society, private sector, and government. We bring business solutions to fight poverty. In the last year and a half, we launched a new strategy which really focuses on climate and regenerative agriculture, because we know that's absolutely essential in the fight against poverty, and if the business solutions that we bring to the table are going to last. I'm going to talk briefly about I'll touch on two initiatives that I want to make everybody aware of here. The first is one that TechnoServe launched last year, which is the Regenerate 30 initiative launched at COP27 in Sharm el-Sheikh. Our focus is over the next several years by 2030 to help 30 million farmers increase their incomes, to mitigate 30 million tons of carbon emissions, to restore, protect, and enhance 12 million hectares of land, and to see $300 million of private capital invested. All of this will ultimately help to bring about $1 billion of additional income for our clients around the world. We've already seen some of these ambitious goals in action. In Kenya, we've worked with Kentaste, a food processor, one of the biggest food processor of coconut in Kenya. And we have helped them to convert coconut husks into biochar, reducing waste and enhancing soil health for local farmers. In Ethiopia, we've supported farmers in planting over 1 million trees already and rejuvenating 230 square kilometers of coffee land using regenerative practices. These are the kinds of initiatives that will help to bring about agroecological development in our agricultural system in this part of the world. But in order to do so, we need many partnerships of complementary organizations, which is why we're very proud to partner with WWF as part of their strategy on the Africa Food Future Initiative. We need partners from across the spectrum. We need governments, philanthropists, and the private sector to work together to fund and de-risk farmer transitions towards more regenerative practices. We need better research and extensions. It's not enough for our extension agents to talk about climate and nature in general terms. They need to talk about very specific practices that are both regenerative and boost yields. Because if farmers can't increase their incomes, they're not going to adopt the practices that we want to promote. We need corporate partners, African and global corporate partners, to invest in local sourcing as anchor buyers and to promote regenerative practices in their supply chains. And we need better carbon markets. We've been talking about the potential of carbon markets for years, but there are many, they're complex. And if we want farmers to benefit from the good work that they are doing to sequester carbon in soil and trees, we need to ensure that they benefit equitably. Maybe most important of all, we need more partnerships and more collaborations like that between TechnoServe and WWF. Without bringing together these types of complementary skills, we can't bring about the agroecological transformation that we need in our food systems for the future. So I'm excited to be here today, excited to talk to many of you, and I would invite you to join us in AFFI and Regenerate 30 to help transform food systems across Africa.
Thank you so much. Being pressed with time. So our next presenter is Carlo Fada from SEAT Biodiversity. He's a scientist and he's also the lead of the Nature Positive initiative of the CGIAR. So you're welcome, Carlos.
Thank you, and it's really a pleasure and an honor to be here. I think a lot has been said. My organization, in addition to being lead of Nature Positive, my background is on biodiversity for food and agriculture. I would like to discuss a little bit how we can achieve an ecological future. There is maybe something that people are not really aware. Africa is a huge center of diversity for many, many crops. We normally think, wheat comes from the semi-fertile crescent, rice from Asia, Latin America. No one mentioned the tens, hundreds of crops that have been domesticated in Africa. These crops are called neglected, underutilized, forgotten, and for a reason, because they are not visible in the public discourse. Yet these are the crops that can provide adaptation to climate change, that can improve nutrition, and that can really be used in a context where regenerative practices are actually adopted because they are less demanding in terms of inputs. But in order to be able to change and to transform the system into this ecological future, we need to make sure that the investment changes. And so in different type of research where these crops are valued, because as my colleague before fairly correctly said, we need to increase yield. So if we want to start replacing little by little or use more sorghum, finger millet, we need to improve the productivity, or teff, or fonio. We need to improve the productivity of those crops. So research is needed. A research that is done with the farmers, because the custodian of this diversity are the farmers. A huge amount of knowledge is with the farmers in today. We need to work on regenerative practices that are actually suitable and conducive for this crop. And we need to work with the consumers. Now people want bread, they want wheat-based products. How can we convince to actually consume a little bit more of these traditional crops? Be mindful that these crops bring nutrients, which are really important for the growth of the children, reminding that 1 in 4 of sub-Saharan African children are stunted and they have malnutrition issue. And they also better on the other spectrum of malnutrition, which is obesity, because these crops many times have less glycemic factors, and so they could help controlling the very fast growing obesity rate in Africa. So, and then they can be grown organically, so they can be helping preserving the soil. They reduce the pollution of water of environment, because we talk a lot about the impact of agriculture, but pollution, eutrophication of water bodies is another important factor. To conclude, we need a shift in investment. We need, at the moment where the money flows is towards a better adoption of practices that are actually not so environmental friendly. We need those to change. We need to have a shift in the paradigm, in the policies that the countries are actually implementing. In the CGIAR and the Alliance of Biodiversity and SEAT, we are experimenting a lot of these solutions in Africa and in other continents, and really looking for very practical and tangible ways through which we can have viable, diversity-rich, environmental friendly agriculture that can feed Africa into the future. Thank you.
Thank you so much to our dear speakers. You will remain seated there, but it is a time for us to interact with our audience. Taking Africa food system towards an ecological future will not only take the three partners who are here. So we want to understand from you what is required to do this. So I want to hand over this session to my colleague, Georgie, who will lead our interaction with you on a number of questions. You're welcome.
And thank you for our speakers for very, very key notes that we have made. Just one important, as Carlos mentioned, is about that. The Africa Center of Biodiversity. The question is, how do we really make sure that our transition to food systems really take care of this? So I would like to discuss this question to you. And the question is, what will it take to transition Africa's food systems towards an inclusive and ecological food future? I think that's very clear. So what should we do to make sure that the food transition in Africa is an ecological in that way? So, yeah, please welcome, and let's hear from you. Who would like to start? Please. What should we do?
Thank you very much. My name is Anthony. I'm from Mosh Cooperative University, just on the foot of Mount Kilimanjaro. And also, I happen to be part of the UN team, which works on food waste measurement and prevention since 2021.
Right.
So to me, it's a privilege to be here. And as I've actually heard from different people share, one of the key aspects that I look at the food system as we try to transition is that the question of food waste and food loss is not given much attention. So much of the discussion and conversations around have really focused on producing more, improve the system so that there's no more food. But the statistics, very simple statistics, tell us that around a third of food is lost. 14% is lost before the retail sector, and 17% is lost between the retail and the consumer sector. Quite unfortunate, the African continent is, I can say it is a sleeping giant. We have been putting much effort on understanding the losses on the farm. We have been putting much emphasis on the storage issues. It's quite unfortunate that we do not understand that much losses happen at the retail and consumer sectors. What happens to the households? And I can tell you, in fact, we were dining there. I wish I had a camera.
Thank you. I think this is very clear.
So you can imagine quite a lot of food that we wasted here. It could feed hundreds of people. So what I'm saying, if we really want to be conscious about the sustainable food system, we should also look at this amount of food and all the processes that take to produce it. The first presenter made it clear that production of food really go along with the consumption of much water. The statistics say around a quarter of fresh water is used to produce this water. Transportation, production of greenhouse gases, 80 to 10%. So you can imagine consumption of land more than 30%, equivalent to the land of China. So what we are saying in Africa is possibly we are focusing on production. But Malabo Declaration 2014, the resolution, among other things, was to cut post-harvest loss by 50% by 2025. But I can tell you,
we are almost.
I was reading the latest information, the statistics. Less than 10 countries were able to present data. So you can see.
Thank you very
Let's
much.
give
Thank you very
others
much.
a
I know.
chance.
I'm sorry, I'm so much excited
I
in
know.
this area.
Professor wants
Thank
really
you,
to
thank you,
lecture.
thank you.
Very good. Very good.
But one more, just I said
Let
on
us also
on
give
29th, on 29th, just one more, on 29th September, just in the next 2 weeks, the world is celebrating, food waste loss awareness. So take note of that and be a champion wherever you are. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Let's be brief a bit, please.
Okay, thank you. My name is Agnes Kirabo. I'm the Executive Director for Food Rights Alliance back in Uganda, but I'm also the chairperson for Scaling Up Nutrition Civil Society Network in Uganda. What should we do? We should repent. And there is no transition that actually Africa needs. We need a rewind. This ecological safe production system were the same production systems that we came in the names of transition and we called old-fashioned, barbaric, rudimentary, satanic, and all of that. So for us in Africa, actually, we need a transition back with the repentance and the declaration that we apologize to what we did to Africa. And to be able to do that, we need your documented research. Because every time we put these ecological alternatives on the table, our industrial friends are saying they cannot feed Africa. So I'm happy that the likes of SIGA are here and Biodiversity. Please give us these empirical evidences. We go with them as we plead for mercy and we redo the production system. Otherwise, where we are going, it is not even going to guarantee safety and security to the people in terms of food, but also to the planet. I thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. You made a very good thing. We have to repent for injustice we have done to the nature. We have been harvesting for the nature, but we don't invest it back to the nature. Thank you. John, please.
Thank you very much. My name is Don Banga. I work for Southern Agricultural Growth Corridor of Tanzania, which has recently changed to Sustainable Tanzania Agricultural Growth Corridors. And I really thank and congratulate presenters for good thoughts that they have shared with us. But I would like to take this opportunity to reinvent the statement of saying farming as one of the drivers of environmental degradation. To me, farming can be an agent of reversing the degraded environment in a way that, if at all, African continent, African farmers can embrace on technology, on science techniques, we can cut down our carbon emission, we can cut down our degradation rate, we can cut down our tendency of reducing biodiversity and the quality of our ecosystems. In how? By doing this. We have evidence that some farmers who have been applying improved technologies in the farming systems have actually doubled or quadrupled production system in a way that our ecosystem that has been degraded by the farmers has get revived. And the good examples is in Iringa, where we worked with conservation organizations like IUCN, WWF, and others. So the first point I will say, we should take the farming or the farming communities to be the agent of change to actually improve our ecosystem by applying technology and the science that can actually help us to get out of that. Thank you very much.
So thank you very much, Johnny, for nice contribution.
My
Yes.
name is Tunsime Kiando, the country manager for TechnoSave Tanzania. So I echo every point that has been spoken out to majority of us on the protecting the biodiversity and the challenges of the climatic change. But we shouldn't forget that we are struggling to all those challenges because these smallholders farmers, or because of this population, are struggling to end their livelihood. So by the time we are thinking about ensuring sustainable livelihood to these entrepreneurs and farmers, we should all work together to ensure that we build sustainable businesses that will enable increased productivity, market access, livelihood improvement, And at the end of the results, we will protect our environment. Because if these entrepreneurs are equipped to do sustainable business in whatever they are doing, apply regenerative practices in their production, that will ensure sustainable preservation of the environment that they are doing their business in it. Because
Thank you.
already
Thank you.
they will
Thank
be
you.
aware of what the degradation of the environment meant to their businesses.
We should rely to mobilize smallholders farmers to apply conservation agriculture in their locations and promote also FMNR, as well as it will bring positive change, and our smallholders farmers will fully benefit from what they will produce.
Thank you very much. Let's invest to smallholder farmers. They are the majority and the most impacted. So thank you very much. We are running shortage of time. We're almost there. Allow me to give 1 minute to our speaker for any conclusive remarks. So thank you very much for your contribution. I know there are so many things we would like to discuss, but time is limited. So please, you're most welcome.
It's not really concluding remarks. You know, it's the same thing that has been said here all along, and this is what we are saying here. You know, what Africa have up till now not lost. We should not forgo the biodiversity that we have, productivity, profitability of our agriculture, absolutely. But there is so much that we need to protect in order for Africa, in the end, to have the resource that we can also use for sustaining the lives of the people in Africa. So this is the let's go with what we have, but let's not forget that environmental conservation and protection and biodiversity conservation, should be at the back of our head, not even at the back of our heads, in front of us. And this is something that we cannot lose. And we have to use all the science, all the data that we have, all the knowledge and the learning that we can learn from the others. And we cannot go into the ways that others have gone. And we are coming in at an appropriate time that we have so much that we need, we can learn from the others to make sure that we don't make the mistakes. So I think that will be my
Thank you very much. The future of the food system in Africa depends on the supply of services we get from the environment. So thank you very much, Dr. Ahmad. We should have that. So please.
Yeah, just a quick comments on the interventions that have been made. I think on waste. I think waste is a byproduct of the current system. The current system is made to have high level of waste because to reduce waste costs money, and cost money does not fit with the current paradigm in which food has to be produced cheap. So I don't think that waste, the way to address the waste issue is to transform the food system in ways that every single product is actually valued, and waste should not be allowed because culturally it's unacceptable. On agroecology, I think that there are now increasing body of evidence that agroecology can actually feed the world. The productivity can be high, maybe not in terms of the productivity of hybrid maize, but still, if you consider food and nutrition security together through agroecology, you can actually achieve both. I mentioned before, obesity is increasing. That means that we need to put in the picture the fact that maybe we need to eat a little bit less of staple food in order to control that obesity. But then the last problem is the linkage with the private sector, which I think is really important. The moment you start producing 10 crops in a farm and you want to create a livelihood out of there, it means you need to have 10 value chains. It's not only about the maize that you sell to a miller that produced the unga to make the ugali. It's something different. And so in the private sector, the research around food processing and developing new products and marketing new products, it's really, really an essential step for success.
Thank you very much. Please.
Thank you. I would just build on some of those points and the great points made here today to call on all of us to reframe some of these challenges as opportunities. Indeed, the population is growing, it's urbanizing, but also the middle class is growing. There is a tremendous amount of opportunity for agri-food businesses on this continent. And there's a tremendous amount of opportunity for smallholder farmers when they can be plugged into those commercial supply chains and supported to deploy agroecological practices. But we need to talk about these challenges as opportunities. Otherwise, they overwhelm us. So as we focus on each of these challenges, I would encourage us to think about what's the opportunity? What's the opportunity with waste? How can we turn that into a circular opportunity for a new business that's recycling, creating biochar for fertilizer? How can we repurpose waste for biofuels? So let's not ignore these challenges, but let's identify the opportunities and capitalize on those as we move forward.
Thank you very much for strong conclusive remarks. Thank you very much. Over to you.
Thank you so much. Let me take back my time. Our dear speakers, you still have to maintain your seats. And kindly, Will, can you also take a seat in front? So if you're seated somewhere, do you have this document in front of you? Yes. So WWF has developed the African Food Future Strategy. And this strategy is actually aimed at putting Africa on the pathways that you're talking about. It recognizes a major problem, that the way we are producing food is actually in conflict with nature goals, and really identifies 3 key issues. One of them is unsustainable land and water use management. Most of the time we are overusing water, we are actually abstracting water, and the way we are using land is leading to degradation. Another challenge is actually unsustainable production practices. The way we are producing food on the land, we are using agrochemicals in a very luxurious way, and all this is poisoning the soils, it is poisoning the entire ecosystem and affecting biodiversity. And the third challenge you have identified is actually unsustainable value chains. They are so disaggregated. As one says, farmers are actually producing everything. They are not organized. We are really pressing farmers to go towards sustainable production. There are no incentives. There are no subsidies. So the markets are stranded and farmers are also stranded. So we have identified 3 major pillars as WWF and our partners on how we are going to deal with this. One, the strategy actually identifies the need to work towards integrated land and water use management. In doing this, we aim to build capacities of governments and other stakeholders on land use planning, water use planning, water management, and land management. We believe that as WWF and our partners in doing this, we are going to create spaces for production, but we are also going to create adequate spaces for biodiversity conservation. The second pillar that we are working on is what we call agroecology. Some of you might call it regenerative agriculture. Some of you are using conservation agriculture, but we are guided with FAO's 10 elements of agroecology, implying that we are able to work on reducing the use of agrochemicals, we are able to work on circularity systems, appreciate the use of knowledge from farmers in a co-creation manner. So that is why we are working on agroecology, but we aim to increase adoption of agroecological practices at farmer level. And the third pillar of our work is actually on sustainable value chains, where we are working with our partners, TechnoServe, in building capacities of WWF and even our communities on how to work around sustainable value chains. But what is more important is how do we increase investments? How do we increase investors who are interested in reducing the food footprint? So I know my time is up, and on that basis, are you cutting me off? I hope you're not cutting me off. So I want to use this moment actually to call upon the leaders of the program to actually launch it in this meeting. And we are going to, in a very soft way, they're just going to exchange the key documents that are there. So I'll hand over the documents to Dr. Mani, going to share the document with the other partners. But most important is that if you are seated and you have this document in front of you, at the time when they're actually exchanging, you actually have to hold it up so that you also show that you are actually with us in launching the Africa Food Future. So I will request that you have this book in front of you. And I don't know, Kijoji, kindly come and help me to ensure that Dr. Mani actually has enough copies to actually hand over to the partners. As he does that, we expect you to be holding your book like this so that we all working towards this, towards launching this great strategy. So over to you. Our dear partners, we actually would like you to receive the books. Our farmer from Kigoma, come and receive the strategy. Please come and receive this strategy. Mr. Dr. Mani, kindly give the strategy so that he's part of the team. Thank you so much. So Africa Food Future Strategy, we launch it in this meeting, and we are putting Africa towards an ecological food future. Thank you so much, and thank you for those who are here. Thank you for agreeing to do this. Thank you so much. Asanteni sana. Thank you.
And I'm going to invite Omar to kind of tell us where the from, why they chose a French word, and how it's related to food systems in Africa. Omar?
Yes, thank you, Wangari. Hello, everyone. So just to tell you that there are still ongoing sessions at Arbre à Palabre. So if you can't pronounce the name, that's all right. So this place is meant for interaction. We are asking different questions for you to interact, to impart skills, to share insights about what you're doing on the ground. So we've been having now a session with WWF on what will it take to transition Africa towards an inclusive and ecological food future. The next session is from Grameen, and we will see if we would make a tool that will reduce gender gap, what should it include? So just think about if we want to reduce gender gap and we have a toolkit, what should it include? So think about that, and we will answer that in a few minutes. And then later on, we will have the International Potato Center answer what the roots and tuber crops contribute to agri-food systems transformation.
If you have something to contribute to the food system, we have 30 minutes before the next session to hear your contribution.
Okay, perhaps something that I need to say is that we cannot think about an inclusive food system without thinking about the sustainable and inclusive consumption partners. We need to grow the consumption behaviors of the people in Africa towards consuming ecologically produced foods, because this is going to be a motivation to all the other actors in the system to produce and make the ecologically produced and sound foods available. So we really also need to go and engage the consumers, those of us that are here. How many of us had a question in mind, if not in the mouth, ever since we started having meals here, as to whether the meals are ecologically sound? So ecologically inclusive consumers and sustainable consumers are a very big force if we are going to have an ecological, inclusive, and sound food system.
Thank you so much. I really love your ideas. And it brings up a good question. Farmers produce for people to eat, for the market. And so the market kind of dictates the demand levels. So as much as we have included a farmer in these forums, we need to go a step further and think about sensitizing our public towards that. So I am looking for other hands. Maybe you can tell me how the session was.
I'm Christopher. I'm coming from DRC, Congo. I think it's an opportunity for me
Yes.
to understand what is doing about sustainability, about inclusivity in food system in other countries. What ideas is discussed, and perhaps some of ideas will be useful for us. And so, question about inclusivity, question about gender in food system, question about sustainability are key questions, and now I'm here to understand what is it. And perhaps I will have a question after, but now I have no question.
Thank you so much. That's our representative from Congo. He's saying he's here to learn and absorb and see some of the strategies that he can take back home. We are always wanting to hear the voices of young people. What has been your experience of AGRF 2023?
Awesome.
Wewe Mtanzania? Haya, ongea Kiswahili, tuambie imekuwaje?
Nimefurahia mkutano kwa kuwa nimejifunza mambo mengi na nimeweza kukutana na watu wengi wenye interest katika kilimo, and I'm also nawakilisha shirika la Tanganyika Christian Refugee Service, na nimejifunza mambo mengi ambayo nitakwenda pia kuwafundisha beneficiaries.
Mambo haya ni yapi? Hata sisi tusome.
Kuna mipango mizuri ambayo imewekwa na mashirika mbalimbali kwa ajili ya kufanya miradi katika kilimo na kuboresha kilimo, especially watu wanahimizwa kufanya kilimo wakiwa wanazingatia mabadiliko ya tabia nchi, mitigating processes. So I've been able to partner with a lot of people.
Good. Yeah. Thank you so much for your contribution.
It was very informative, and I'm happy to be part of the launch that just took place.
Yes.
Some strong feedback, which I hope the panelists have taken into consideration.
It was really good, right?
It was very good, yeah.
Yes.
Thank you.
I'm from Ghana, and my name is Alfred Yeboah. I'm with Grameen Foundation, and we actually presenting at the next session on gender. So for me, the strategy looks promising and practical.
Okay.
Fingers crossed that it goes far.
Implementation is the hardest part.
Exactly. So that's what I'm looking out for.
My name is Gigi Gatti, and I come from the US.
Okay.
But I also represent Philippines, which is where the conversations are focused, because there's so much to say about food systems.
Yes.
And I also believe that not everyone can do everything.
Mm-hmm.
So the partnerships that are being ideated, closed, or being launched here are very informative, and it's giving me positive vibes for the future.
Could you give us one takeaway that you were like, oh, this was a good highlight?
Yeah, sure. So to me, launching of, for instance, new financing mechanisms, for instance, the one that we just attended for N3F, is to me very exciting, because that puts together a consortium of very good partners to start with. Plus, I think that's financing mechanisms are very important to get things moving.
True. Thank you so much.
We should stop in just nature. Why we do is just because we take more from nature, but we don't invest it back to nature. We consume water.
Invest back.
Yes, where we benefit from water, how much do we invest to protect that water? We are taking fertilizer. We're harvesting food from soil. How much do we invest it back to make that soil more productive and continue to provide the services? So we should stop this, and we should repent for our mistake.
Amen. I love that.